morning and welcome to OD and Chill episode 125. We are streaming live across LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. My name is Vincent and I'm the APAC Marketing Director here at Overdose. Today I'm joined by Lauren Smith, our Marketing Automation Lead. And today we're going to look at a bit of a deep dive into all things email and marketing automation. As we kick off into 2023, one of the big themes of the year for a lot of businesses is efficiency. We're heading into another period of economic uncertainty, and it's important that everything in our digital strategies and tech stacks are working at an optimal level to ensure that no money is being left on the table and that our investments are paying off at the maximum rate. So today we're going to be focusing on how to tune up your marketing automation tech and how to drive more efficiency and output. So to set the scene, Lauren, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your role at Overdose and just broadly, what is marketing automation and how does that differ to regular email marketing?
Thanks, Vince. So for those who don't know me, I'm Lauren. I'm the APAC Marketing Automation Lead here at Overdose. So I work across Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore with our clients in the marketing automation space. So marketing automation, unlike standard email sends, it's a collection of messages and touch points based on a trigger, such as signing up to a list, browsing a product on site, adding a product to the cart, and we take this on-site customer actions and use it to send highly relevant content in real time. And this can be in the form of email, SMS, a paid ad, or a combination of all three. So unlike email marketing, which is just the one sort of channel, marketing automation is more of a holistic approach and taking all those different touch points and creating these really customized journeys for users.
Yeah, excellent. And so for companies that do have really strong email automation setup, what is some of the financial impacts that they see compared to maybe like a batch and blast type approach?
Yeah, definitely. So conversion rates for marketing automations, because we're taking those on-site actions and triggers, we're looking at what people's behaviors are and sending them content that's relevant. The conversion rates are about 20 times greater than a one-off campaign. So one of the things I see a lot with clients is they'll be spending heaps of time and energy sending out campaigns, but they're not investing that time into automations. And the thing I always say to them is, once automations are set up, there's a little bit of A/B testing involved, but they're pretty much there to constantly make revenue for you with minimal effort compared to something like a campaign send. So they're fantastic things to have in place.
Yeah, that's really powerful. That's definitely a huge number there. So in terms of the landscape, what are some of the key platforms that people are using, particularly for e-commerce brands? What are some of the key automation platforms that you're seeing in the market?
Yeah, so the leaders, I'd say, are Digital and Klaviyo in the e-commerce space. They're both fantastic platforms. We work with them a lot with our clients. I think majority of our clients are on those two platforms. They're a fantastic integration of email, SMS, paid ads as well that you can put into it. So those two platforms, I would say, are the leaders in the space at the moment.
Yeah, excellent. I guess what we've been doing as a business is doing a lot of auditing, looking at how people have set up their email automation, what are, some of the strategies that you're seeing are working well, and also kind of what are some of the common trends you're seeing when, you're getting under the hood and analyzing people who've got these platforms set up, but, maybe haven't utilized them to the best of the capabilities of the platform.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I see is not personalizing content. And this is a massive area that's just going to keep on growing. Majority of users nowadays expect a level of personalization in their content and won't actually interact with content that isn't personalized. So simple things like having dynamic product feeds integrated into their emails that pull from their e-commerce website, personalizing content and imagery based on what we know about the client, about the customer. So are they interested in certain products? Where are they in the world? Seasonality, things like that. And a recent study by Litmus showed that brands who use dynamic content on a regular basis had a 43-to-1 ratio of return on investment compared to brands who rarely ever used it. They had a 12-to-1 return on investment. So dynamic content and personalization, it's a massive area to explore. It's going to keep on growing, and the demand for it and expectation for it is also keep on growing. So brands that aren't doing it at the moment, it's a key area that they need to look into. And it's probably one of the largest ones. Like a lot of, there is a barrier to it, especially if you have like a large product SKU or you have data that's across different tech stacks. Being able to collate all that data together in one place and put together these personalizations and know how to apply it on scale is going to be your best asset for the future.
Yeah, excellent. I think that's one of the things that really surprised me looking, and getting further into this space is just how complex it can be. Not like necessarily in a scary way, but just in a really sophisticated kind of way. Like there's so many more integrations than I knew were available. There's so much, automation in the recommendation engines and just the way that it kind of connects everything else together. So powerful. Like I think there's, some of the things I think I've seen along the way is that a lot of people have kind of gone in and done one or two parts of that when they've configured their setup, but there's just so much more there available for them to get into. And I think you're looking at the data when we analyze email as a channel for a lot of businesses. We see that they're kind of under indexing against the industry benchmarks. Like they maybe are only getting kind of 2 or 4% of their total revenue through email, where, a leader in this space is probably getting kind of 10, 15, 20% even from marketing automation. So definitely good to see that people can really close that gap by implementing these types of things and really kind of create like a very good foundational channel for their business to be driving high consistent revenue. So I guess in that kind of respect, like what are some of the like first things that people should be doing when they are setting up their automations, and what can good marketing automation do for a business from your view?
Yeah, so some of the first things that I would recommend doing if they're looking at wanting to set up their automation is going through their audit, going through their website and conducting a bit of an audit. So looking at where are the touch points, what's the user journey. Email marketing automation is meant to supplement the customer journey, and it's meant to help guide people through the different stages. So getting into your website and looking at it from a customer's point of view and understanding what are the pain points, what are going to be my considerations, maybe when I'm browsing, what are information that I would like to receive at this time. You're going to be able to start identifying what key pieces of information you need to send at those different stages within the customer lifecycle. But some of the fantastic benefits from automation come from the fact that we can get in front of contacts and convert them sooner with behavior-based data. We can upsell and cross-sell with personalized product recommendations, and this helps to increase the average order value, the customer lifetime value. We can increase retention and return on investment by creating these personalized customer journeys. So not just in that purchase phase, but I really like to think about automation as that post-purchase phase as well, and thinking, how can you create a strong brand relationship? How can you help foster advocates of your brand and provide educational content, get them connected to communities, really fostering this really strong relationship between you and your customer. And that's where it comes back to being customer-centric as well, and understanding what value can I give the customer at this stage in their life cycle. How can I add value to their day? Because at the end of the day, if you're providing value to your customer in that sense, and you're thinking about that in every message that you're sending out, the customer is going to be more likely to engage with your content because they're adding value to the day. Like how many emails do you receive and think, I don't get anything out of this, so I'm not going to open it?
Yeah, totally. I think that's definitely something I want to unpack a little bit more as we kind of head into the trends for the year. Because I think personally, like my inbox, it's definitely from time to time you're kind of, what you want to open and what you don't want to open. And that's because some people get it and they really provide that value. And you see that email and you're like, I actually do want to see what they've got to say, whereas there's other businesses that, just the same old tired thing that's almost like a bit more of a checkbox type of activity rather than actually like doing something that provides value and, mixes things up a little bit. You mentioned ROI, obviously a big topic for any piece of marketing is what do I get? So what kind of ROI do you think people should be seeing from email? And what are some of the best things that, the best email marketers are doing that give them that edge?
So the average ROI for email is about 40-1, and that should be a benchmark that people aim for. So like I mentioned before with that litmus report, email ROI can range anywhere between 12-1 to 47-1, but it really depends on what sort of strategies you're putting in place. Obviously, the more refined your channel is, the better ROI you're going to get. So things like being customer-centric in your approach, so putting the wants and desires of your customers behind every experience you create, and that's not just including email, but thinking about that across all of your marketing channels and your marketing approaches. And when you care about the customer and focus on producing content that resonates with them and addresses their needs and interests, they're more likely going to engage with your marketing. So they're more likely going to convert. Integrating email marketing and SMS and paid social into automations can also create really strong omni-channel experiences rather than just leaning on one channel alone. I can see we've got a question from Jason.
Yeah. So what percentage of revenue can marketing automation contribute to an e-commerce business?
Yeah. So email in general should be around 15 to 20%. That's like the ideal range. Recommendation is that 50% comes from marketing automations and 50% comes from campaigns. So campaigns still play an important role. Like the ideal situation is you want that 50-50. The marketing automations are there they're primarily to help with that, getting people across the line in those key areas and really building that brand experience. But marketing, general campaigns are still really important. And that's where things like having a content strategy and audience segmentation and planning out your email sends. So not just going, oh, shoot, I've got to send out an email this week. I just need to put something together, but really sitting down and planning your emails out over maybe a quarter or 6 months and thinking about, I want to target this audience this week, another audience another week, or segmenting out. You might send 4 emails in the week, but just different segments, and really being concise with who you're targeting and the content that you're producing for them.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see that in Google Analytics, looking at conversion rates, email, the campaign sends like tagged properly. When you look at the conversion rates there, they're just incredible. Like I think a lot of the time they're, up towards 10%, 15%. Definitely such a highly targeted approach to getting in front of people with the right message. I guess just to kind of wrap up the setting of the scene, can you run us through some of the essential automations that people should have set up in their accounts?
Yeah, so essential ones would be something like a welcome series. So when someone signs up to your list or they create an account, welcoming to them to your brand and explaining what are your brand's unique selling points, what's your value, what are they going to expect from signing up to that email list. Abandoned carts have the highest conversion rate out of all the email series. That's because essentially if someone's at that stage of adding something to their cart, they're probably really close to buying that. They have a high intent to purchase. So abandoned carts are there to push people across the line, providing them with information about what are the unique selling points of the product. Maybe they have some concerns about shipping. If it's an expensive product, they're worried about warranty, providing that education at that point as well to address any concerns that they have. So abandoned cart, absolutely important. And then the next one would be abandoned browse. So again, this is in that purchase phase of the customer life cycle. And it's looking at if someone's browsing on the website, providing them with educational content around the types of products you have, showcasing user-generated content to create a sense of social proof and excitement around what they're about to purchase or what they're looking at purchasing. And then the last one that I would include is post-purchase. I really think that the post-purchase is such an important part of the flow. It might not have as high conversion rates as, say, the welcome series or the abandoned cart, but it is really important to create a lasting impression of your brand. If someone's just purchased from you, you want to be able to convert them to a second purchase. It's cheaper to convert an existing customer than it is to acquire a new one. So having that post-purchase in place and ensuring that they are getting the relationships being fostered, if they have any concerns, that's being addressed, and then upselling or cross-selling and getting them to that second purchase is really important.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like what that says to me is it's just so important to capture that email at some point. Like a lot of people, they think building their email database and getting that email, like what do I do next? But there's just so many options. Like once you've actually got that person somewhere in your database, like all of these other things start to open up as opportunities, and you can really start to get creative in putting the right thing together to, address that cohort, build up a bit more like idea of segmentation and how you can connect with these people along the way. We do have another question here from Daniel. G'day, Daniel. How's it going? What's the most interesting automation you've built or seen with one of your clients?
Ooh, this is a hard one. I actually find post-purchase to be like probably my favorite automation to build, because I love communication with customers, and I love building that brand experience out. And I think that when you have a higher range of SKUs and you have you start segmenting your automation, so you might segment it by product that they've purchased. Are they existing or new customer? How did they come through? You can look through at the source that they came from. Did they come from Google Ads? Did they come direct? Was it a Google search? So there's lots of ways that you can start segmenting that post-purchase customer experience. So I really love that one, just for all the little nuances that you can start all the new nuances and directions you can start taking with it. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I guess moving into some of the trends for 2023, first off, SMS. What are we seeing here? Is this a fad? Is it here to stay? What are some of the kind of insights or results that you're seeing in the SMS space?
Yeah, so SMS is definitely here to stay. A recent survey by Klaviyo actually reported that 96% of customers stated willingness to receive a text message at least once per week from a brand. So, but in that space, probably only about 15% of brands are actually sending out SMS. So there's this open market for it at the moment where customers are happy to receive it. It's not a no-go zone, but brands aren't utilizing it just yet. And platforms like Klaviyo and Digital, they have fantastic SMS options. They're built into the platform. It's part of the package when you sign up, when you add that on. So there's fantastic ways to integrate that into your automations and really boost out those automations that you're building so that you're not just targeting from one channel, but from multiple. Click-through rates on SMS, the average click-through rate is around 8 to 9%. Conversion rates are a lot higher compared to a standard campaign send. The best place for an SMS is, and this is what I say to clients, is they're really great for sending across time-sensitive, urgent announcements. So if you've got a sale that's live this morning, sending out an SMS is a great option. If you've got a product that's back in stock, sending out an SMS. If you have an abandoned cart that you want to give someone a 24-hour discount, sending out an SMS is a fantastic option. They're really great for creating a sense of urgency and pushing people back to the website. They're also a fantastic way of creating conversations with your customers. So this is an area that I think is going to become more and more important, is fostering that brand relationship. So being customers that can come to you, ask questions. So we know that you can do this over Facebook Messenger, but an area that's sort of growing is SMS. So customers can reply to your SMSs and ask questions, and you can send out SMSs in real time. You can set this up to answer them based on common questions, just like in Facebook Messenger. So they can have a list of common questions and you send back an automated reply, or you can use it like a chat function and reply to them. But 72% of customers are more likely to purchase from a website if a brand can communicate with them about their products in real time with a real employee. So this is where text messaging is going to become really important.
Wow, I think that's really, really interesting. There's definitely a lot more chat kind of going on, all across the web. So yeah, just kind of understanding how that's going to roll out, I think is really fascinating. I suppose that leads into, personalization. That has been a game changer. I guess what other tech are people using to create those personalized emails and to deliver that experience?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of additional integrations coming through. So things like Nosto, Yotpo, and Prezi, they're all fantastic integrations that can help with the personalization experience. So Prezi, for example, we can capture more zero-party data by doing things like having quizzes or like surveys on the site. This is a great option for capturing that first party data. So data that a customer has willingly given you. So an example could be like a customer, such as a client like Adore Beauty. They could have, they have a high number of SKUs and people are coming onto the site for lots of different reasons and they have different concerns. So having a quiz in place that helps them identify what products suit them best, but also helps us capture information on what are they actually interested in, what are their concerns, so we know what to send them. We can create this hyper relevant content. Being able to capture that data and use that and create segmentation from it is super valuable. Same with Nosto. We can have a look at that it's better for behavior targeting personalization. So using the on-site first-party search data, having a look at what people are searching for, what products are they interested in, again, just creating better product recommendations. And then Yotpo is fantastic for reviews and user-generated content. So creating that element of social proof is super valuable for emails, and creating user-generated that content that's personalized for that user is within their target demographic, same interests that they're interested in. It's going to really help shape out the personalization experience and help brands elevate their emails.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that really amazes me, like I've seen a few of these tech demos and just the speed of setup is just phenomenal. Like the integration, once it's set up, like what you can do with it so quickly and really kind of revolutionize your email strategy out of the box like that is something that's so powerful and, just absolute game changer. Another question coming through from Kashish. What frequency of emails do you recommend for clients? Great question.
So I'm going to answer with the standard marketing response, which it depends. But yeah, it really does depend on what the client can keep up with and what they have capacity for. What I see with quite a few clients is they'll have this really high period of email sends. So notoriously over Black Friday, Cyber Monday period, sending out emails multiple times a week. They have this massive volume, but then it dies off for the January, February period. They might be sending out one a month. And the problem with that is it starts to signal to inbox providers that this domain could be quite spammy, because fluctuations in email sends is a spam trigger. So making sure that you have the capacity to send out a consistent email sends is probably the most important thing. I would come back to the client and say, what do you have capacity for? Do you have capacity to send out once a week, twice a week, once a month, and then working from there? Another thing is segmenting it down. So really, if you're receiving a message from the brand, probably anywhere between one or four times a month is good. You can start sending up to a couple of times a week if you want, but having that, the most important thing is having that segmentation in place. It's no point just sending out content that's not engaging. If your content is showing consistent engagement rates, so upwards of 30% open rates, upwards of 2 to 5% click-through rates, preferably higher. But if you're seeing good engagement from your campaign sends, then you can keep that frequency up. When you start seeing people the opens are dropping, the click-through rates are dropping, the unsubscribes are increasing, that's when you know, okay, I'm messaging people too frequently. I need to step back and think about what content actually resonates with them and how I can approach this better.
Yeah, I think it's such an important thing, just looking at your numbers, being aware of them, and kind of assessing those trends. And when we look at optimization and kind of what you can be doing to push things further, those are some really good key things to just keep in front of mind, to investigate that. And I suppose kind of leading into that segmentation approach, let's talk a bit about database. Let's talk a bit about the importance of keeping a tidy database, and how you can create a better ecosystem that talks to people in the right kind of way. What are some of the tips around database management?
Yeah, so segmentation, and I know I've said this so much, but segmentation and keeping a clean database, so suppressing any unengaged users, that's paramount importance because it directly impacts your email deliverability. So email deliverability is around whether or not the emails that you send, where they land in a person's inbox. Do they land in the inbox? Do they land in the others folder? Or do they land in the dreaded spam folder? So real estate is arguably the most important factor when it comes to email marketing. If you're not landing in the inbox, then your messages are probably never going to be seen or opened. And no matter how much time you spent producing, getting the sale organized or producing these fantastic looking emails, doing A/B testing to make sure the conversion rate optimized, if they're not landing in the inbox, they're probably never going to be seen. And that's such a waste of your time. And it's such a sad thing. So making sure that we're getting into the inbox is super important. And it's not always as straightforward as just hitting send. So inbox providers review your sender domain reputation. And this is essentially like a score that you get as your domain based on how your users have historically interacted with your content. And this is what they decide on whether or not they should place you in the inbox or the spam folder. So domain reputation is based around things like replies, opens, or clicks. They're all positive signals and they give you a positive score, whereas unsubscribes, spam complaints, and unopens will give you a negative score. So if you're consistently emailing your entire list and say, around 70 to 80% of that list is unengaged, like they haven't opened or clicked on an email in the past 90 days. And this is pretty commonplace. Like I see this a lot when I do client audits. They'll have about 70 to 80% of their list is unengaged. And they'll be sending out to those people on a regular basis. They'll be sending out to the whole list. And by doing that, you're essentially constantly saying to the inbox providers, 80% minimum of my list are unengaged with my emails. And that's telling inbox providers this content isn't engaging, so I'm not going to place it in the inbox. So that's why cleaning out your list, getting rid of all those unengaged subscribers, and then segmenting to make sure that the content that we do send out is relevant to the people that we're targeting is going to be so important, because you'll be boosting those engagement rates and you'll be telling inbox providers, you can put me in the inbox, my content is worth opening.
It seems so counterintuitive to not want to send to your whole database. Like I think, if you had a nice big chunky list of people there, you'd want to just be batch and blast and getting in front. But yeah, it's so fascinating to know that that's actually going to impact the overall performance, and you're better off sending to a smaller group. And I think I remember when that a lot of the main email providers started rolling out the promotions tab. So you'd have your main inbox, and then you'd have your promotions, and I'd start to see people's emails end up there, and open rates and click-through rates and everything just started to kind of take a little bit of a tumble there, because they're just getting lost amongst the sea of other, marketing messages. So getting front and center in the inbox is, absolutely paramount. Question coming in from Timon. What are some common mistakes that can be made with setting up automation builds? That's a great question.
Ooh, triggers, absolutely. So sometimes I'll see some clients setting up their triggers for their automations and they haven't factored in what other automations are going to be triggered by this same trigger. And that's really important, because especially with something like the welcome series or the abandoned cart, they're really, really high converting, but if someone, for example, accidentally gets added to both at the same time and they get sent, say, 3 emails in the space of a day, they're most likely going to unsubscribe because they're going, oh my goodness, this is way too much content coming at me way too quickly. So making sure that those triggers are in place, you've factored in all the different routes that people could take through the customer journey, because not everyone's going to be the same. So really thinking about it from the top level, going, okay, will this automation fire if someone does action X, and what other automations are going to be triggered by this? Really looking at that and making sure that you have caveats and safeguards in place so that we don't have this overload of email sends.
Yeah, good call. Another trend that we're seeing in the space, it's everywhere at the moment, big topic, AI. How's this kind of impacting email marketing from your view? Are we hearing of people using ChatGPT to write email copy, or are there any other AI tools that are starting to surface at the moment?
So we're already seeing email providers before ChatGPT became the buzzword of this the century. But we were already seeing email providers like Klaviyo implement AI copy generators. So Klaviyo in particular, they've been using it for assisting subject line creation, which is a fantastic tool, and copy for SMS, because they identified that writing SMS copy, because you have a limit on how many characters you could use, it was quite a barrier for people wanting to use it or test it out, because they would go, oh, I don't know what to write. Like, I've only got so many characters. I'm used to writing a big email. So adding in that copy generator is a fantastic tool that you can utilize. The largest impact, though, I think will be on that personalization space. So AI tools for the product recommendations in like .digital, fantastic product recommendations. And I can just see this technology getting better and better to be able to make better predictions based on things like how are people interacting on the website, what sources are they coming through from, what ads were they browsing before that. All this data is just going to improve those AI predictions, and that's where we're going to see the biggest impact.
Yeah, excellent. I guess we can move into some of the opportunities and threats to email marketing. I think iOS 15 was probably one of the biggest changes to the email marketing space that we've seen in the last few years. What are some of the impacts that we have seen from iOS 15, and what kind of things can we expect to see in the future from tech platforms, operating systems, and things?
Yeah, so the biggest impact from iOS 15 was on open rates. So Apple's privacy policy essentially said that got rid of the pixel tracking that we use to measure the open rates when images load in the email email inbox. My goodness, but realistically, I actually think it's a pretty good thing for brands. A lot of brands were using open rates as their KPI for email performance. And realistically, emails are there to prompt customers to make an action, whether that's click on a link or visit your website. And open rates aren't a good don't paint a good picture of that. Like if you send an email and people open it, but they're not actually taking action from it, I wouldn't say that email has been effective. So having to turn your interest towards click-through rates and conversion rates as your primary KPI, I think that's actually a really good thing. And it's forced a lot of brands and a lot of people to pay attention to the quality of their emails and really pay attention to that whole piece around segmentation, making sure that the content I'm producing is engaging, provides value for the customer so that they are going to click and they are going to perform an action. But in terms of moving forward, I think the biggest thing we're going to see is around privacy issues. So we know that GDPR laws have rolled out in the EU and UK, and this has caused a lot of a big stir in terms of what data we can capture and how are we making sure that we're keeping consistent profiles on people and we're capturing consent and making sure that we're adhering to the law and that we're only emailing people and we're only capturing data on people who have consented that we can do so. But At the moment, this isn't in place in Australia or New Zealand or even the US. So I think that this is where we're going to see the biggest change. And this is where right now it's really important that that brands pay attention to how they're collecting consent. Are they being explicit with their messaging around what people are signing up for? Being really open about that and making sure that they're creating these really strong records of consent. So that way, if laws like this do come into place, you don't have to go, as a brand, you don't have to go back to all those customers that I'm not sure if they did explicitly sign up. I think it was a bit more inferred consent. You don't have to go back to all those customers and email them and ask them for consent again. You know that you've collected it properly at first, and you don't have to do that in the future.
Yeah, definitely very good advice there. I think, one of the other things that we're starting to notice as we do move into this kind of new era of measurement and privacy is attribution changes, and kind of looking at the type of data that is provided through a platform, and the insights that you're able to get over here, and kind of marrying that up with insights that you get from other platforms and trying to make sense of it all. And I think that's going to be a really big one as well, is just trying to validate the numbers that you're seeing and making sure that you're really getting full 360 view. But it's going to get harder because there is going to be a kind of a cutoff point where that data isn't shared, and we're not really going to be able to see the like for like types of comparisons that we get in this day and age.
Yeah.
Another threat, we have kind of touched on it a little bit, is crowded inboxes. So, what are some of the recommendations there? I think particularly like SMS as it's emerging, I notice around those key sales dates, I get SMSs from businesses, and I will admit I get SMSs from businesses that I had no idea that I consented to. And I get a little bit like, okay, this is, I think if we were in the EU right now, you might not be messaging me without my consent. But what are some of the things around crowded inboxes that are a challenge? Is it harder to get noticed now, and how can you stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, definitely. So being noticed is a continual struggle, and this is where thinking back to that customer-centric marketing model is really important. So when you think about your own inbox, and the emails you probably open are going to be from brands that you want to hear about, and the ones that resonate with you and address your needs, they're the ones that you're most likely going to be open. We can write subject lines and A/B test until the cows come home. But if you're not addressing the customer, giving the customer a reason to open your emails and providing them with that value, that stuff's just not going to work. So standing out in the inbox, I think, really comes down to thinking about your entire customer journey, and from when you first capture that customer's email and their first experience on the site, making sure that you have this customer-centric mind frame, and how can we add value, and how can we communicate that value and make sure that the customer, that we see them as individuals, and then we're not just sending them generic campaigns or generic content, but we're really personalizing things. So it's not just a quick fix, unfortunately. Like creating more catchy subject lines and A/B testing does help to boost your open rates a little bit, but at the end of the day, I fundamentally think that it comes down to having a lasting impression on the customer and knowing that your brand offers something else that someone else does. It's not easy either, unfortunately, that's what happens. Like it is just going to be a more and more competitive landscape. Marketing as a whole is becoming more competitive. And if you want your brand to stand out, you need to give the customer value.
And I think that's like as well a positive thing in the sense that, people and marketers should be showing their creativity alongside the tech. And I think that's where, people who sometimes go too far down one path of just being like very technical checkbox, like I've got this, and this, like it's great, but you really need to add in like a bit of your own flavor and a bit of your own personality to make sure that, your brand really has something that people can like make sure they can see amongst the crowd. We've got another great question coming through from Eddie. What kind of strategies would you employ to manage churn rate?
Mm-hmm. So I would go through and have a look at what are the most recent campaigns that have been sent out, or where are those unsubscribes coming from? So are they coming from the welcome series? Are they coming from the banner card? Are they coming from campaign sends? And then looking at what kind of trends can we see with that content that would mean that people are unsubscribing. If there's like a high unsubscribe rate in the welcome series, I would then look at the customer journey and go, okay, so how are people subscribing to begin with? Because if you just subscribed, it's not that common to have a really high unsubscribe rate. So I might go onto the website and have a look and see, oh, I can see a large percentage of subscribers are coming through the checkout box, the checkout page, because the checkbox for marketing communications is opt out versus opt-in. So it's automatically checked. So that would suggest to me that a lot of people are accidentally subscribing and not wanting to receive that content. So you have this really high unsubscribe rate. If it's in another area like your campaign sends, I would look at what kind of content they're sending. Who are they sending it to? Are they sending it to an entire list, or are they sending it to a segment? If it's to a segment, then I would say, okay, that content's probably not resonating with that group at all. So we're going to try something else. To start off with, I would also probably reduce the number of emails they're sending out. So a lot of the time you'll see higher churn rates if the email sends are too frequent. So it might be a couple of times a week. I would cut that down by half, maybe even a little bit more, and see what those churn rates are like as well. But yeah, they're my main tips.
Excellent. Yeah, I've definitely done a lot more unsubscribing this year. Like when I've kind of noticed certain businesses in my inbox more frequently, and they're just probably not realizing that I'm not quite in market for them at the moment. Like that's not meaning to me I'm not going to be in the future, but when I'm kind of getting a barrage of emails and things, I think it's really, handy just to be able to go, not for me right now. Maybe I'll come back a bit later, but I just don't really want to hear from you at the moment.
That's where
another question.
That's where it's really important to unsubscribe to unengaged people. So when you suppress someone who's unengaged, so they might not have opened or clicked on your emails in 90 days or 120 days, getting rid of those and just suppressing them, but maybe retargeting them with a meta ad or something like that. So not completely kicking them off the list, but knowing, okay, they haven't opened up or engaged with our emails in a considerable amount of time. They're probably a bit disengaged. So to protect our email deliverability, we're going to suppress them, but we're going to see if we can reach out to them and re-engage them on different channels. And that's where using the different platforms and integrating them really well and making sure you have this holistic marketing strategy is really important, because they're just going to complement each other really well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's just one of the best strategies that's out there, is like actually using your email database as that centralized view of what people are doing when they're connected to your business, and then feeding audiences through to different marketing platforms, excluding people from certain marketing sends through meta ads and things like that as well. I think that's excellent. Another question from Ahmad here. What's the most effective way to segment customers?
So you've got quite a few different ways that you can do it. The first, I suggest to my clients to go through a few key areas. The first one would be looking at email engagement. So segmenting people on how recently they've opened or clicked on your emails. This is to protect that email deliverability. So making sure that in the future, you're only emailing people who are engaged. The next one, I would focus on who's been a past customer, who hasn't purchased, who's a lapsed customer. You can start segmenting based on on-site data. I think the best way to go about it is to really think about what are the key areas that you want to target, and what's your goal? Do you want email to is it just about getting people to click onto the website? Is it just about people opening up your emails, or do you want to really focus on pushing revenue and pushing conversions? So once you figure out what your goals are, that's where you'll apply your segmentation strategy. And segmentation, can just be as, you can just go as much as you want, really. Like there's no sort of limit on segmentation. You can keep on refining and refining your segments, building them out. Like I said, we usually start off with those basic segments for customers or for clients, and then we start building them out and making sure that you have data. You've got all your data, all your points of data collection is integrated into the one platform. So making sure that the orders are coming through and you've got on-site tracking and view product tracking, pulling that across. Maybe you have information on who's a follower of yours on social media platforms, pulling that across too, and creating this centralized pool of data is going to be imperative to creating those really strong segments. The more data you have, the more detailed the segments you can create.
Wonderful. Great perspective there. I think we're almost coming up to time. So I just wanted to, again, thank you, Lauren, for joining me today. So much interesting content, so many good tips for people to tune up their marketing. Do you have any final thoughts or any key parts for people to leave with for today?
I think it would be, think about when you're creating your emails, think, would you want to open or read this? Like, does this provide you value? I know I've said that heaps today about providing value, but it really is the thing that's going to separate a brand that has a strong following versus a brand that churns through customers all the time, is thinking about that customer-centric model and how are we providing value for our customers.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, again, thank you so much. Thanks for everyone's great questions today as well. Really enjoyed answering those with Lauren. And yeah, I hope you have a great day and a great rest of the week.